So parasites, they can be either from kingdom Protista or kingdom Animalia. Within the kingdom Protista, we have malarial parasite, leishmaniasis parasite, and then we have Giardia, we have Trichomonas, and then we have the Trypanosoma that causes the African sleeping sickness. When it comes to the platyhelminths, we have the nematodes and the cystodes. Within the nematodes, we have large number of parasites. Ascaris is one prominent example. And then we have the arthropods. As far as the arthropods are concerned, either they are ectoparasite or they act as vector. So there will be one new term for you people, that is a vector. Can anyone define what is a vector? When it comes to the arthropods, they have significance that they are vector of many diseases. Vector is anything that facilitates the transmission of a disease. For example, mosquito is a vector that transmits malaria. Sandfly is a vector that transmits leishmaniasis. Tsetse fly is a vector that transmits African sleeping sickness. It's not always compulsory that vector is required to be a living organism. Sometimes you have a mechanical vector. I mean, it's possible that a disease can be transmitted through wind. It's possible that a disease can be transmitted through air. It's possible that a disease can be transmitted through water. It's possible that a disease can be transmitted through food. So it's not compulsory. We use the word vector for anything that is able to transmit that disease. In parasitology, most of the vectors, they are found from phylum Arthropoda. Please mute your mic. Secondly, as far as the global morbidity and mortality due to parasitic diseases are concerned, here you can see a chart. Morbidity is the state of illness and mortality is state of death. So from this chart, you can see that the most prominent parasitic disease is always malaria. And malaria disease affects 800 million people. And each year, maybe it's an old data, but each year it's 1.5 million deaths occur worldwide due to malaria. If you look 8 to 10 years back, now we have more control on malaria, but if you take 8 to 10 years back, the malaria was killing 3 million people worldwide. And 90% of those mortalities, they are in Africa, and remaining 10%, they are in Asia. Second prominent disease when it comes to the death is the amoebiasis, Entamoeba histolytica. It's a GI tract parasite, and each year it's killing more than 100,000 people. Then you have Toxoplasma. Once again, it's a protozoan parasite that is killing about 10,000 people. Then you have a Trypanosoma. Trypanosoma has killed on average about 60,000 people. So that's the chart. So on one side you have number of deaths, and on the other side you have infections, and just look at all those numbers. They are huge. 800 million people malaria infection. Amoebiasis 480 million. Trypanosoma 24 million. Intestinal nematodes, no one is free from them, 2,400 million. So it's a huge number. So lots and lots of parasites, they are persisting around the world. And they are still a very, very much significant problem for us. Is it clear now? So that's the classification. Parasites, they are classified into main four groups. Either they are protozoan, they are platyhelminths, they are nematodes, or they are arthropods. So protozoan parasites, they are all unicellular, single cell. They are not only unicellular, but they are also eukaryotic. As they are animal-like, I use the word animal-like, so they are all heterotrophs. When it comes to the protozoa, there are about 50,000 species, but 1/5 of them, at least 10,000. You have 10,000 species that are parasitic. So they act as parasites, but not all of them they act as parasites. I mean, they do not, all of them, they do not infect the human. Some affect veterinary, some affect other animals as well. When it comes to the protozoan, most of them, they have worldwide distribution. Although some very important has a restricted distribution. How we classify the protozoan parasite? We have one general classification criteria, is that we look for how they move. They are ciliates, they are either they move through flagella, either they are amoeboid, or they have gliding movement. So the first phylum, a protozoan parasite, is the flagellates. So their distinguishing feature is always that they have flagella for their movement. Among the flagellates, we have parasite of medical significance. The most prominent one is trypanosoma. It causes African sleeping sickness. Then we have leishmaniasis. Leishmania is once again a very important parasite, and it causes a disease that exists in 3 forms. It can be cutaneous leishmaniasis, visceral leishmaniasis, mucocutaneous leishmaniasis, and one very, very common parasite that has a worldwide distribution, once again, Giardia, and it causes diarrhea. It's an intestinal parasite. As far as the leishmania or trypanosoma is concerned, they are blood and tissue parasites. While as far as the Giardia is concerned, it's an intestinal parasite. It stays in small intestine. And then you have the Trichomonas, and it stays in the reproductive tract. So you have parasites that uses flagella for their movement, flagellates, and they are from the phylum Sarcomastigophora. And then we have a parasite that are amoebic, and the prominent example is always Entamoeba. Although there are other species, but the prominent parasite that has a medical significance is always Entamoeba isolatica. It causes 100,000 deaths worldwide each year. It's a parasite that is present everywhere. Once again, this parasite has a worldwide distribution. Then you have phylum Coeliophora. They uses the cilia, and the parasite ciliate that has a medical significance is the Balantidium coli. It's the largest protozoan parasite. It stays in GI tract, and most specifically, it stays in large intestine. So it causes dysentery. Then within the protozoan, you have another phylum. We name it as the phylum Epicomplexa. We name them Epicomplexa because they have, these unicellular organisms have apical complex. And when we will going to discuss the Epicomplexa, we will going to discuss the Epicomplexa in detail. But for a very limited period of time, you need to know that apical complex is used for the penetration into the host cell.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but we have another class with Dr. Rizwan.
Okay, so lecture dismissed. Accept my apologies. Today my internet was not working well, so hopefully it will be better in our next class.
Okay, sir, thank you.